Hi. Official recaps here.
In the mountains of Romsdal, Norway, Tobias is taking his daughter Nora to see the Troll Peaks. The fairy tale says 13 trolls once gathered here for a wedding, but they got so drunk they lost track of time and became mountains. Tobias finds it painful to hear that Nora believes she is too old for fairy tales and tells her that you have to believe in something in order to be able to see it. 20 years later, Nora is an archaeologist leading her team on a digging expedition off the Atlantic coast of northwestern Norway. Since they haven't found anything in 6 months and their money is running low, the majority of them are ready to give up, but Nora is tenacious and keeps trying. When she eventually finds a dinosaur skull, her perseverance pays off, and the team celebrates. A construction crew is excavating the Dovre Mountains in order to build a new railway in the meantime. Activists opposed to this kind of environmental degradation have drawn a lot of attention to this, but their voices go unanswered. Finally, the tunnel is started by setting off the explosives, but before long, something snarls in the mountains, causing a collapse from which not all of the workers can escape quickly enough. The Norwegian military immediately detects this incident and the resulting seismic activity, and they dispatch a reconnaissance aircraft to look into it. Sigrid, who oversees the cameras on those planes, works fast to compile a set of images that she presents to her superiors. They determine that this is significant enough to notify Prime Minister Berit. While traveling to the base, Berit is notified of all the destruction brought about by unidentified forces and shown the photos they took, which, in the opinion of her advisor Andreas, resemble footprints. Although she finds it humorous, Berit sees it as unrealistic, so she assigns Andreas 2 tasks: to keep this information out of the press and to locate some scientific experts who could assist them with this issue. A short while later, Nora is being picked up by a helicopter during her celebration and asked to accompany it to a national security meeting. Upon Nora's arrival at the base, Andreas greets her and brings her to a confidential meeting where Berit, senior military officials, and a few other scientists are debating potential causes for the incident in the mountains. Because dinosaurs are extinct and therefore couldn't have caused this, people don't take Nora seriously when she poses as a paleontologist. The reports thus far seem to support the theory that the cause is geological in nature, even though the team does not completely rule out the possibility of a military attack from another nation. Images of a crater and other landscape features show up on the screen, leading scientists to conjecture about things like sinkholes and underground gas pockets. When Nora stops them to point out that those craters are obviously footprints, they don't take her seriously because, again, footprints would imply monsters, which is a ridiculous notion. Sigrid interrupts again, this time via breaking into an activist's phone and discovering live video of the event. Although the devastation is quite unsettling to witness, Nora forces Sigrid to play the video again, this time more slowly, before the others can return to their gas theories. A distinct animal-like roaring sound can be heard in the background, and a massive, enigmatic humanoid shape can be seen in the shadows among the falling rocks. A retired couple in Lesja, meanwhile, are perplexed about what's wrong with their dog since it won't stop barking. The couple quickly hides in their basement before everything collapses and the power goes out when the entire house begins to shake. The couple emerges from their completely destroyed house, the dog, at least, when the shaking stops. Back at the base, Nora observes that the leaders continue to deny that the footprints could have been left by a monstrous creature and that, whatever it is, they should be taking action against it rather than arguing and sitting on their asses for hours on end. After being impressed by Nora's demeanor, Berit appoints her as the official scientific advisor and asks her to accompany Andreas to Lesja in order to investigate the most recent incident. When Andreas questions Nora about how she got into paleontology while they are in the helicopter, she tells him that she has always loved the outdoors and that her innocent fascination with fairy tales developed into a desire to search for the real monsters that live underground. Her father taught origin mythologies and folklore, but as he grew older, he lost his ability to tell fact from fiction. Her mother passed away when she was 10 years old. For this reason, Nora hasn't seen Tobias in a long time. When they get to their destination, shocked by the damage to the landscape, Captain Christopher welcomes Nora and shows her the tracks that originated across the river, went through the valley, and then continued 2 miles south into the mountains before coming to a stop. The military is already securing the area. After thoroughly searching the area, the soldiers were unable to locate any more hints. The elderly couple is approached by Nora with some questions, but their view is limited by a massive moving figure that obscures the sun. But something did reach their ears, a deafening howl that resembled a melancholy tune. After that, when Nora examines the damage more closely, she discovers an odd, potent odor that she chooses to refer to as hypernature. She searches for biological remnants using UV light as well, but all she finds are rocks and dirt. So she brings Christopher and Andreas to see Tobias, who pulls out a gun when he notices strangers on his land, particularly an armed soldier. Tobias agrees to let them in after Nora helps him realize that this is the daughter he hasn't seen in years, despite the fact that he needs to put on some pants first. Paperclips and research papers abound in Tobias's home, demonstrating his fixation on the mythical troll creature. He starts to talk about all of his theories about trolls being real and witnesses being silenced, but Nora stops him and tells him to focus on the footage she is about to show him because she believes it contains some clues. He is the one who knows these mountains the best, after all. However, Tobias thinks this footage proves his troll theory is real, and when Nora points out scientists would have already found troll DNA if they actually existed, Tobias reminds her that the Christianization of Norway got rid of all the mythical creatures, and when he was about to reveal it all, Tobias was sent to the loony bin. He thinks the people in charge have always known, and fairy tales were written to make trolls look evil and dumb when they're actually pretty smart. Nora can't believe what she's hearing, but Tobias is too excited for objections and joins the team to continue the investigation. When they arrive at the area where the tracks stop, Toby immediately notices that the topography is all wrong and doesn't match the maps. He also points out this is like being on an adventure together again with his daughter, but Nora doesn't want this to be some kind of reconciliation. Suddenly, the smell of hypernature hits their noses and the sky darkens as the mountain behind them opens an eye. It turns out both father and daughter had been correct. The creature is indeed a troll, and its ability to camouflage has allowed him to pretend to be part of the mountain, explaining why the topography was wrong. The group flees to the helicopter as the troll gets up, roaring at them and displaying its powerful body. However, they are still able to capture the troll on camera, and when the base receives the transmission, they are unable to refute the reality. To let the base know what they've discovered, Christopher takes the group to his military camp. Tobias interrupts Nora to inform everyone that the unknown creature she refers to is actually a troll that is disturbed by construction in the mountains, which he views as a mockery of nature. Nora keeps using the term unknown creature so as not to appear insane. Nora requests more time. They will go ahead and plan a military operation because they are concerned for the security of their nation. After that, by the time the entire military operation reaches Heidel, night has fallen over the area. Tobias and Nora finally make up while waiting for the troll to appear because they are reminded of the old fairy tales they used to tell each other about their adventures. A moment later, the troll appears, but as soon as he gets close enough, he stops moving, and Tobias is certain the creature is aware of their presence. Ignoring Tobias's warnings that firing at the troll would only infuriate it, the soldiers open fire, but the explosions and bullets have no effect and the troll merely retaliates as Tobias had predicted. The troll starts destroying everything in its path, including the cameras that were sending the operation to the main base, and everyone starts to flee. Tobias explains that the troll most likely smelled the blood from the soldier's wounds when it reached down and grabbed the soldier to eat. Tobias chooses to approach the troll and try friendly approach, but Nora, Andreas, and Christopher want to flee. To everyone's surprise, the troll truly stops moving and responds to Tobias's kind remarks with subdued groans, but sadly, not every soldier received the memo. When the troll turns to counterattack, a truck opens fire on it once more, inadvertently hitting Tobias in the process. When the troll leaves, Nora runs to her father's side, and Tobias murmurs, "The palace, the king, home," pleading with his daughter to hold on to her faith before he passes away. In an attempt to block out the agony and find a solution, Nora occupies herself by going through Tobias' research when they get back to the base. She is told the army is preparing for an airstrike, but for the time being they have lost sight of the troll when Andreas and Christopher stop by to see how she is doing. Nora believes that the outcome of this attack will be the same as the previous one, so they will need to be creative. Although trolls are said to dislike sunlight in fairy tales, this one has been observed emerging during the day. The other hint that they have comes from Tobias's comment that the Christianization of Norway destroyed the trolls, which gives Nora a notion. They get in touch with Barrett and the others and let them know that bells are what they should be using because legend has it that trolls used to hurl boulders at churches when they heard the bells. The leaders find this absurd, so Christopher has to intervene and remind them that they need alternatives because nothing has worked thus far. Barrett then reluctantly agrees to let them proceed with the plan. Shortly after, the troll reappears, approaching the Hunderfossen family park and sending the crowd into complete panic. As everyone starts to flee, with the exception of a young girl who wants to observe the creature, Christopher and Nora arrive in a helicopter and pilot an entire hover that is loaded with enormous bells. As the bells ring, they encircle the troll, and it turns out that Nora was correct. The noise does damage the troll's ears. But the troll also attacks without hesitation in self-defense, hitting the helicopters and causing them to crash. Unexpectedly, the troll grabs the helicopter to save the young girl just as it is about to fall on top of it and flees. The fact that this occurred in such a public place has made the troll and its journey to the capital city widely known. Every nation's newscasts report on the incident, and social media users share phone-recorded footage that goes viral. When the team gets back to the base, a vengeful Barrett kicks Nora out of the base and ignores her when she explains that the bells did work and that they should try again from a different angle. As Nora is leaving, she runs into Christopher, who says he believes Barrett is making a mistake and that he will always be there for her. The military officials inform Barrett about some potentially harmful missiles that aren't yet officially approved in the conference room. Andreas argues that such weapons shouldn't even be considered, and Barrett is shocked that she didn't know about this. However, this just gets him thrown out of the room. Seeing as he won't be taken seriously, he decides to quit and rejoin Nora on his way out, telling her to get ready because they're evacuating the city. Moments later, Barrett appears on TV officially announcing a state of emergency and asking all the citizens to collaborate as their soldiers take over to prepare for the next operation and help them evacuate without issues. Nora and Andreas are in the same car and get stuck in traffic, so Nora uses this time to keep looking at Tobias' research. The pages keep mentioning Sinding and something about a gatekeeper, which prompts Andreas to comment it could be Rykard Sinding, the Lord Chamberlain at the royal palace. Nora suddenly remembers Tobias mentioning king, palace, home before his death, and reaches the conclusion they need to go to the royal palace. After Andreas drives them there, the guards stop them at the gate, but Sinding quickly arrives to let them in because he knew that eventually Tobias or someone connected to him would show up. Even though Tobias despised him, Sinding says he still respected him and that his stubbornness made him one of the select few who figured out the palace's hidden mystery. Building a palace atop the residence of another king was once thought to bring good fortune, and it turns out that this particular palace was constructed on the site where the Troll King once resided. Nora and Andreas are led to a tunnel full of troll bones. When Sinding explains that the Christianization of Norway killed everything that disagreed with their beliefs, they ambushed the royal troll family and only spared one baby to entice the king into the mountain. They left it for dead there, locking it inside a cave. When Tobias discovered all of this 12 years ago, Sinding put him in the lunatic asylum to protect the secret. Nora is incensed because he feels bad about it but still thinks it's the right thing to do. But Nora knows Tobias was right. The Troll King is coming home to the palace, and they need to put an end to it, so this isn't the time for a fight. As Nora explores the bones, she discovers that her UV light is causing damage to them, proving that the stories about sunlight were accurate after all. The troll has been spotted during the day, but the clouds and mountains have prevented them from seeing it in the full light of day. Nora calls Christopher for assistance after Andreas points out that they are powerless over the sun. Christopher will set up a unique trap while Nora and Andreas entice the troll to it. Barrett authorizes the use of the missiles after the troll arrives in the city and the military attacks fail to stop it once more. They must find a way to buy time because Sigrid calls Andreas to alert him that the leaders are preparing to launch those missiles. While Christopher is setting off alarms throughout the city, Andreas asks Sigrid to attempt to hack into the army's system to halt the launch. In order to get the troll to leave the palace, Nora and Andreas will drive the largest truck they own around the city, and Sinding assists by asking the guards to place one of the troll's skulls on it. Sigrid needs a few tries to gain access to the system, but once she does, she quickly halts the missiles, providing Nora and Andreas with the necessary time. They eventually take off and reveal the skull on the back of the truck, which prompts the troll to roar in rage and pursue them as planned when it gets closer. When Christopher gets a call from Nora informing him that they are on their way, he feels compelled to give his soldiers a pep talk to keep them courageous until the monster eventually shows up. When Nora and Andreas finally make it to the highway following a long day of insane driving through the streets of Oslo, they unintentionally misplace the skull. Before the troll realizes that it is reflected in a building, it stops running to pick it up and lets out a heartbreaking mournful groan for its children. The troll is startled when it tries to touch the broken glass, and the sudden shattering noise sends the skull crashing into a million pieces. The troll is enraged and roars in pain, causing Nora to experience sadness at being the last of its kind. As the creature pursues them in retaliation, Nora returns to her original strategy of driving away and attempting to avoid the damage the troll is causing as much as possible. After Sigrid's hacking is discovered at the base, her computer is taken away so that the system can be restarted. Soon after, Nora and Andreas arrive at the location of the trap, and they exit the truck to lure the troll to the center as it approaches the car. When the troll tries to step on Nora next, the soldiers stop it in its tracks and surround it with dozens of UV lights, which begin to burn. As the missile-carrying aircraft approaches, the pilot pauses upon spotting any civilians in the area. An argument begins at the base to see if they should abort or not, inspiring Sigrid to punch the idiot that doesn't care about his citizens, and the operation is effectively aborted. Barrett and the other people at the base watch on their screen how the troll is slowly dying, and Christopher's soldiers are already celebrating the victory. However, Nora can't stand hearing and seeing a life suffer like this and turns off the power to save it. The soldiers prepare to fire, but Nora intervenes as well, and then she approaches the troll in the same manner as her father and politely requests that it return to the safety of the mountains. The troll considers what she said as it looks at her, but before it can respond, the sun rises, burning the troll until nothing is left but rubble. When Andreas makes jokes about the name of this new hill or monument, Nora suggests Tobias Boulder as everyone celebrates their triumph. A moment later, Barrett arrives and thanks Nora for her work. Andreas reminds the Prime Minister that he quit and announces he'll be a writer. Then when he walks away with Nora, he wonders if there may be more creatures hidden in Dovra. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, something is starting to move under a pile of rocks.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.